Welcome, welcome. This is the very first video of 2019. So this is homework 1, the very first homework for grading period quarter 3. Let's do it. So this homework is talking about isosceles and equilateral triangles. And so those words have some very special meanings. I'm going to actually take a little bit of notes, and I see that there's a little bit of room here on the bottom. So I'm just going to kind of make a box here and stick some notes. Isosceles. I misspelled that. Sorry about that. And equilateral triangles. Okay. So when I think about an isosceles, I either have fat or skinny isosceles usually. And when I say skinny, I mean one angle is skinny and the other two are equal. These two sides are equal and these two angles are equal. These two sides are equal and these two angles are equal. But notice how this angle, if you think of it like a hinge, got a lot bigger. So I'm going to call that X, right? I'm going to call that Y. We know that these two angles, whatever they are, and this one adds up to 180. So all three of these angles, angle A, B, C, and D, all have to add up to 180. A, B, C. And we also know that angle A has to equal angle C. Those are the two things we know. So these are the two equations I might be able to set up. If this is fat, this same thing applies. The only thing that might be a little bit different is regardless of whether it's a fat isosceles or a skinny isosceles, they might tell you this angle, and then you have to solve for these, or they might tell you these two base angles and you solve for that one. But either way, if they tell you this, you know it's that, and then you can use that to figure this out. Same thing goes here. Whether it's a fat or skinny isosceles triangle, this formula still holds true. Angle A, B, and C all have to add up to 180. Angle A and C are the base angles, so that's why they're equal. Base angles. Okay. Equilateral. That one looks like this. Bang, bang, boom. It kind of looks like this, but they are all the same. So the base angles are equal, but in fact, this one is also equal. So all of the angles, I'm going to call this DEF. Angle D is equal to angle E, which is also equal to angle F, because all of them add up to, all of them are 60, because all of them have to add up to 180, and they all have to be the same thing, because all three sides are equal. This is a logic puzzle of sorts. So if this is X, I don't know what it is, this has to be X, and that has to be X. So X plus X would all add up to 180, and 3X would have to be 180. So notice, aha, that makes sense. X has to be 60. Okay, awesome. So let's use what we've learned to try to apply it to these questions. If I get cut off, check out the next video where I'll finish out the homework set. Okay. So if I look here, it looks like this angle and this angle. So these are the two base angles, which means these must be the two sides that are equal. So X is equal to 7. Okay, I didn't have to show work. Number 2, that's X, that's 6. We know those two sides have to be equal because if the two base angles are equal, the two sides are equal. So this is kind of the converse theorem. If the two sides are equal, then the two base angles are equal. This is the statement in forward. If the two sides are equal, then the two base angles are equal. The converse of this statement would say the same thing in reverse. So in question 2, they actually said if the two base angles are equal, then, so if the two base angles are equal, the two sides opposite the angles must be equal. Okay, pretty cool. So make sure. Now, since we're here at the top right, make sure you put your name. So this is my name, but don't put my name, put your name. And if you're doing this today, it's either 1-8 or it's probably 1-9. And make sure you include your period. Okay, so let's move to question 3. This big triangle is isosceles. And this actually also requires a little bit of logic. I'm going to redraw the shape so it's facing vertical. They're saying if I have an isosceles triangle and a line goes down and these two angles are equal. So that's interesting. Basically what they're telling you is I can mark this line. I know the left and right are equal to each other. And so in a weird way, I know these base angles are equal. And so probably for a couple of different reasons, angle, side angle, or side angle, side angle, side, I actually know that this side, so if this is 6, this would have to be x. I know that these two sides have to be equal. And I think we can use a few models to make sense of this, but I think it makes sense that the left triangle has to equal the right triangle. And so since they're congruent triangles, these would be corresponding parts. And the reason why they're congruent triangles is because of side angle, side, or angle, side, angle, triangle congruence. Okay, let's go to the next question. 4. Ooh, same logic. We know these two sides are equal, which means we know these base angles are equal. We also know that this has to be equal because of reflexive. Both of the triangles on the left and the right share this line segment. So this is exactly the same thing. So I'm just going to use this same logic for both of these questions. These two triangles are congruent because of side angle side or angle side angle. And so therefore x has to equal 4 because those are corresponding parts. Okay, sounds good. Question number 5. This is 40, so if these two sides are equal, these two angles have to be equal. So if that's x, that's x. Now I can add up all this. So I could call this triangle ABC. I know angle A plus angle B plus angle C all have to add up to 180 because of the triangle sum theorem. Angle A we know is x because we know base angles of an isosceles triangle are congruent. B is 40, C is x. Combining like terms, subtraction property of equality, voila. Okay, 6 feels similar. If these two sides are equal, their opposite angles are equal. I think this one got even easier. We know x has to be 75, and the reason is base angles of isosceles are congruent. Base angles of isosceles triangles are congruent. So there's no real math to show. But we can write notes so we can explain our reasoning. All right, number 7. Mark, mark, whoop, bam, whoop, bam. Mark, mark, necklace, necklace. If this is an isosceles triangle, then these base angles are congruent. So that's 54, that's 54. And I can think of this as triangle ABC. So, kind of running out of room. Question 7, angle A plus angle B plus angle C all has to add up to 180 because of the triangle sum theorem. Angle A is 54, B is also 54, C is X, there we go. 8. Mark, mark, whoop, whoop, necklace, necklace. So if that's 75, that's 75. So now we can solve for X. So A, B, C. Angle A plus angle B plus angle C has to add up to 180. Angle A is X, B is 75, C is 75. There we go. I'm gonna jump to the next video. So check out the next video to see 9 and 10 and the back of the worksheet. Thanks for joining me.